Welcome to the Board Game Spotlight Podcast. Get ready for an entire hour of gaming goodness, brought to you by our incredible sponsors: IV Studios, Fireside Games, Van Ryder Games, Renegade Game Studios, Mythic Games, This Little Bean of Mine, Game Toppers LLC, Kick Track, Arcane Wonders, AEG, Draw Lab Entertainment, and of course, our amazing Patreon supporters. This podcast would not be possible without you. And now, here are your hosts, Derek and Lizzie Funkhauser.
We are back and we are ready to bring another episode.
Let's go.
Filled with board games, media, questions from the community. We have a lot going on, and we have a really great interview that's going to be in this episode as well. So please stick around, give us your ears for an hour, and let's get into it.
Welcome to Mail Call. In this segment, we'll answer questions from the Board Game Spotlight community.
All right, so Mail Call. We have quite a few questions here. We're going to start off with the first question from AJ Novacek. AJ, I said your name right this time. Give me some credit. I had to practice. So, who, what designer, publisher will you back purchase games from without much research or prior knowledge because you have complete confidence in them? Ruel.
Great question. The first one that jumps off right off the bat is AEG and anything by John D. Clare. I am a huge fan, and John has been putting out some fantastic games, and AEG has been knocking it out of the park lately. I think we've talked about this before. I think just overall, those games really hit the spot for me personally. And, you know, Meeples and Monsters that came out last year, I was like all over that immediately. There's one that I talked about, I think I talked about last week, that's coming out at Gen Con called Ready, Set, Bet. I am pumped about that. And that combo right there, John D. Clare and AEG, is pretty much an insta back for me.
I love it.
Understand.
Stephanie, what about you? What gets you excited? What publisher are you like? You know what? I just want to give no matter what.
I always love Awaken Realms. So all their games. I know they're big mini games, but I just love their games. Everything. I think I have all of them so far. I just love them. They're just great to me. And I'd say I love Bruno Cathala games. Those are pretty fun for me. So I love Ishtar. I think was one of the last ones I played most recently, and I love that game. It's a great game.
Very nice. Yeah, I really like Awaken Realms myself. Lizzie, what about you?
Anything from Kids Table Board Gaming or Burnt Island Games. I think they always find really unique games. I think the kids games always have really great strategy, and they're always fun to play as an adult. And it's something that, you know, we can build our library for Seb as he grows. And the Burnt Island games are just always fantastic. Just there has not been one that I have not absolutely loved.
That's high praise.
It is.
I do agree with you though, and that's kind of been the running joke with us. Is like I keep telling Helena Capella and Josh, I'm like, I'm waiting for a game that you make that I don't like. It's gonna happen one day, but it has not happened yet.
I mean, maybe
it'll happen. I don't know, but that's kind of the running joke. Jimmy, how about yourself?
I'm such a Shem Phillips fan. You know, I just love Raiders and I love Architects and I love Paladins. I just love that whole thing. So they've got the new one, the South Seas series that's coming up. So that's just an instant back for me. And they're also, I love supporting their Kickstarter. I know that they also run through retail as well, but I don't know. I just really love supporting them and kind of directly, you know, with his side of it. So anyways, I'm always an instant back with them.
Yeah.
Doesn't it get a little confusing with all those Shem games? I'm always like, which one's supposed to go first and next, and what's the series? I get kind of confused and lost in translation with all that.
Yeah, it's like book series. You just got to Google it, you know, like what's the order that I should read this? I don't know.
And I just saw even, you know, that Garfield put out their next, what is it? Trading on the Tigers or something like that? No, it's not Trading on the Tigers. It's something to do with, it's Egyptian themed. I just saw they posted a new box, or it is on the Nile maybe or something.
Well, Nile is the Egyptian river,
I
not the Tigris.
Totally botched that, but they do have a new one coming out.
They have a new game coming out. That's what you need to know.
That's all you need to know.
That's it.
So I'm going to take this a little differently. I'm going to say that an instant purchase for me is art by the Cuddingtons or Ian O'Toole.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
So
yeah.
if it has artwork by one of those two artists, I will buy the game. Like, that's it. Like, there are no questions asked.
Wow, great
Sometimes
call.
there might be some questions asked by your wife,
I mean-
but it's usually too late. It's normally like, why is this box on our doorstep? Well, you see,
But
the
you see,
Cuddingtons.
Cuddingtons. That's the answer.
Oh, yeah.
No, but it's I also really enjoy games by Roxley too, I would say.
Yeah.
I really, really love the stuff they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great way to approach it. I was just thinking, like, Beth Sobel's one for me. Like, I see her and I'm like, I insta buy, because I
Yes.
love all her artwork.
Yeah, I love her too.
Yeah.
If I had to pick a
Gorgeous.
designer, it'd be Vital Lacerda though.
Oh well, yeah.
I mean, that's
yeah.
that's my
Oh.
Yeah, and I'm Stan Kordonsky.
yeah. You're Stan.
Yeah.
You stand
Nice.
Stan.
I do.
Stan.
He is amazing.
All right, so let's move into our second question. This one comes from Mark Dainty over across the pond. He wants to know, solo board games, or would you rather play video games? So, like, would you rather sit down and play a solo board game, or would you rather do a solo board game? However, so if you're not a solo video gamer, maybe you just want to do a solo activity, reading, watch a movie, whatever. Lizzie, what do you have?
Well, I'm obviously gonna read a book. That's like not even a question.
I knew you'd say that.
Obviously.
But we do have Ruel and Jimmy, you both have solo board gamed. And I think you both probably play video games. Steph, I think you play video games, I think.
Yeah, I've been playing the new Pokemon game a lot because it's amazing. And my boyfriend and I are kind of going against each other right now. Who can catch the most Pokemon and who can complete their Pokédex. He's just annihilating me right now, but that's okay. I'll get back.
Nice. Yeah, I enjoy a good solo board game or just a board game that I can solo, like like a cooperative game or whatever. My thing has always been, once I got into the hobby 6 years ago, it was all about, I need time away from the screen. So anytime I can spend away from the screen, I used to enjoy video games back in the day. I really don't play. I'll play an occasional thing on, like an app or whatever, like Star Realms, knock out a quick game in like a few minutes or whatever. But for the most part, give me a solo game. I'll just leave it on. We have an extra table out here in the living room. It's just, I'll have a game on it most of the time. And yeah, that's what I'm all about. Just give me the analog solo board gaming experience.
Yeah, I get it. For me, it's like I'm just terrible at video games. I want to be good, but I'm just not. So, and for some reason, I feel like I can escape easier with family responsibilities and things. I don't know why I can get away to play a solo board game a little bit easier than I can sitting in front of a TV. I guess that's because it's a shared space. The kids are running around, and then if dad's sitting there playing a game, it's just not that easy to do. But I can come upstairs to my game room. I can play a solo board game, put it out on the table. I don't know. For some reason, I find that a little bit easier for me with my pace of life and family and all that. So, and I love it. So
Awesome.
Sounds great. I do both. I was going to say that. I'll just leave it there. I do play a lot more video games than solo board games, though. I am a video gamer. Grew up doing it, and I still do. So give me a video game. Sorry, Mark. All right. Our next question comes from now, and I apologize. Okay. This is a European name. I'm going to say Lon Krajcik. Krajnicik? I don't know. Sorry about that. We'll say Lon wants to know what makes you back a Kickstarter game. So not necessarily like what would you always publish, like what publisher would you always back, but what gets you to hit that pledge button? Steph, what about, so sorry to put you on the spot.
No,
but when you're looking at a Kickstarter, like what is it to you that really drives you to like want it?
There's a lot that goes into my deciding, but it's usually like done pretty quickly. I think when I decide generally if I'm going to back mechanics, if there are some mechanics in there that I like, polyomino, deck building, when they start building more of those favorite mechanics in there, I'm like, I have to get that because I want to see how they're doing this. Sometimes it's theme. It's not usually very much theme, but sometimes I get a really good theme that I'm just like, this is really cool. I want to see what this, where this is going, especially if it's a campaign game, because that's mainly going to be, you're going through that. but also the publisher, of course, and who's making it. Those all go into like my thoughts of it, and really just a really great laid out like Kickstarter page. If it really explains it very well, it's going to be easy for me to decide if I want to back it or not. And seeing those reviews, who's reviewing it, things like that, people that I trust on there. I mean, that all goes hand in hand for me. So I'm sorry if I took all of your answers, but that's everything.
That's funny.
No, that was great.
Uh-huh.
I mean, Lizzie, do you have anything to add to that? I mean, admittedly, I think I look at Kickstarter more often than you do.
Occasionally, though,
But
I'll like
you
find something and
will.
be like, "Are we backing this?" No, you need to put that on. It's hard to pinpoint because sometimes it's just like the way the page is laid out. Like, I like a lot of like pictures, a lot of really good explanations, or when they have the like GIFs that like show you how the gameplay is. And if I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh yeah, that really explains it. That makes me like understand what's going on in the game and like excited to play it.
Right.
Something like that.
Yeah. I think what I notice as well, like specifically with you when I'm talking about things, like you'll ask, well, what have they done before? Like, have they made it? So like when Verdant was on Kickstarter, which is from Flat Out, which did Calico and Cascadia, Lizzie was like, oh yeah, back that. Because, you know, we really love Calico. We hadn't played Cascadia yet, but
we'd heard good things.
It's amazing, you know. So Verdant, we went ahead and backed it just because of kind of the reputation. Yeah. Ruel, Jimmy, what about you?
Yeah, along with I think Lizzie hit a really good point. Along with Steph, well, you know, you want the presentation on the page to make it easy to understand what the game's all about. You know, like those, I love those GIFs. You know, like where you can see the actual turn. You know, hey, this is what you're doing on this turn and so forth. I'll answer this a little differently. As far as what makes me back a Kickstarter game, I these days I've been looking for games that I feel like that I won't see on the retail shelves. Games that I know are going to be a small print run. It's like, a passion project for the designer. One that I backed recently was Synchronized by Anna Maria Jackson Phelps. And, I thought it was, such a unique little theme. It's about synchronized swimming. Like I have no games in my collection about synchronized swimming. Right. And, just again, personally knowing Anna Maria is like her first design with Amelie LaRoche, I believe her name is. And to see that become like they had talked about it. I mean, it literally started as a Twitter conversation, and they took that conversation and made a game out of it and got on a Kickstarter. And it was a very small run, but the fact that they created it, I wanted to celebrate that and support that. And we have our copy here that will be getting played hopefully this weekend. So yeah, that's one thing I do look for, is just unique games that may not be on the retail shelves anytime soon.
Yeah, I totally get that. For me, I'm kind of, if I had to put it in order of importance, it would definitely go theme first for me. Like I've got to see it on the page and say, "Ooh, what's that about?" And then it goes into mechanics. It's got to be a mechanic that I like. If it's something that I'm just not into, if it's a certain style of game, then I'll just pass on it. Even if the theme is amazing, I'll still pass. So I can't really tell what's the most important thing, but theme is what always catches my eye first. I say, well, let me check that out. And then if it's got a theme, a designer I like, well, then I'm definitely going all in.
Those are all excellent answers, and I agree with what everybody has said, and that's awesome. Let's move into our final question. This one comes from Kevin Burkhardsmeyer, or most people know him as Berkey. Berkey, wonderful person. Berkey wants to know, Roll and Write games seemed like the rage for a while. I'm hearing more and more roll and write fatigue. Do you think the genre is fading? Ooh. What do you think?
I don't think it's fading so much as it's evolving. I think before, if it was a roll and write game, that's it, that's all you got. And I think with the evolution of flip and write, and then we've seen like Hadrian's Wall, where it's like a worker placement, but it also utilizes like the pencil and paper. I think it's just finding its way into board gaming and settling in with other mechanics. Whereas before, it was, if it was a roll and write, that's all it was.
Yeah. Great point.
Yeah, I 100% agree, Lizzie. I also feel like the genre is evolving. Hadrian's Wall, you brought that up. Again, Three Sisters that just came out recently. That's another one. It's a roll and write, but it combines like a rondelle element to it. And I love roll and writes, and I love seeing how designers are evolving the genre. And I think it's one of those genres. It's here to stay. Honestly, I mean, who doesn't love roll and writes? I mean, they're so easy to transport. They're portable, and typically they're easier to teach. But at the same time, I love that designers are going towards the heavy end and seeing how far they can push the genre. So I'm so like any genre, I think people may get tired of them. There's a million worker placement games, but I'm still going to play them. I still love it. So I think that's how I look at roll and writes personally. It's just like that.
No, I hear you there. I think for me, that's such a great point about worker placement, because I've got like 100 worker placement games on the shelf, and I still, if another one came out, I'd still say, yes, I got to check that out,
Yeah.
But I think maybe maybe your response to roll and writes might be, or maybe the fatigue might reflect how much you enjoy the genre. Like I think for Kevin, like maybe he feels maybe they're overdone. I'm not as sold on roll and writes, even though Hadrian's Wall was my favorite game from last year. Like, so like when I hear of a roll and write, I'm like, you're going to have to convince me, and so like even Hadrian's Wall, that's another, now that wasn't a Shem Phillips design, but that was from his company. And so even when I heard about it, I was like, I don't know. Then I played it and I loved it. So I don't think I'm fatigued, but I'm a little harder of a sell, I think, on them because I've seen so many of them.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Yep.
So for me, I actually didn't like roll and writes when Rel, you were saying who doesn't like it? I was like, I didn't.
Oh, there we are. I found the one person.
You found me. So I didn't like them at first, and it wasn't until I think it was Fleet and Cartographers that I was like, okay, I'm starting to understand why people like this. And now I'm getting into it more. So for me, it's actually the opposite. If I see now some kind of roll and write game or like
cool.
flick and write like Sonara, I'm like, yes, like let's try that, because I love Sonara. It's one of my favorites. I actually bring it out quite a bit to like new gamers. I'm like, let's try this, because it's different than what most people think. So I feel like exactly what Lizzie said, there's a lot more integration with it, and the different games are doing interesting stuff with it. So it's making me more interested in the roll and write genre than I was before.
Yeah, that's cool.
Sonora is a great example of another
awesome example.
evolution of the game.
I think Sonora is vastly underrated, and I would go as far as to say that it's the most unique and creative use of roll and write I've seen. It's Crokinole and roll and write. I mean,
I have to agree with you. Yeah,
it's no other game so creative.
Yep,
and it's fast.
It's fast and it's fun.
It's gorgeous too. It's a good game.
Yeah.
Though I have to say, if you struggle with hand-eye coordination or dexterity-based games, you might get a little frustrated. But there are still things you can do in the game. I think it's still fun. You could do chaos and just hit everybody's discs all over
I was going to say that. You could just go chaotic on there. Whatever.
For me, roll and writes are something that I've just been drawn to since I first played. It would have been like, I think Gone Shown Clever was the first roll and write I technically played. And then we played a ton of Welcome to, and we played a ton of, what's the game from Stronghold? The one that we play with your family? Second Chance. Yeah. So for me, it's something that's so easy to play. And a lot of times roll and writes are less complex. And so they're a little easier to just teach and get to the table. But I think that we definitely hit kind of this really weird maximization where there were just so many roll and writes coming out every year, and it was just like, is everybody designing a roll and write? And just it's just crazy. Not to say that that's bad, but I think the market got so flooded that it was hard to like find the standouts. Which happens now with a lot of games. I mean, you talked about worker placement. Like, I love worker placement games, but the market is so crowded, it's tough to break through that genre. I mean, you could deck build these the same way, area controls the same way. So I think roll and writes have kind of hit that max velocity now, and you really have to be the Sonora or something like that to really stand out. So
Agreed.
I just realized I'm pronouncing it wrong. Thank you guys for correcting me.
Oh, Sonora.
I was saying Sonora, and they're like Sonora. I was like,
I
oh.
didn't even notice.
I noticed.
I knew what you were talking about, though. I knew what you were talking
Yeah,
about.
right.
On the Toppers, brought to you by Game Toppers LLC. Game Toppers are a portable gaming top that converts your existing table into a high-quality yet affordable gaming solution.
All right, let's move into our next segment. We are going to go into our On the Topper segment, and we're going to talk about some games from our sponsors. And, we have a lot of awesome partnerships and sponsors that we have on the show, and we are deeply grateful for their support. Yeah. We don't want this to come across as an advertisement because we have played a lot of these games, and quite a few of these games I love. Like, they are personal favorites of mine. And so we want to give a shout out to these companies, and we want to just talk about some of the games that we think that you as a listener or as a board gamer might find interesting. All right, so let's start with the first game. And this is one of the games that Lizzie and I started with pretty early in board games, and that's Smash Up from AEG.
It's been around for a long, long time.
10th year anniversary is coming.
Yeah. That's longer than we've been together.
Wow.
I mean, they have so many genres, so many decks that you can mash up, and they've been able to get some really cool IPs to go along with it.
I mean, they've done Marvel, and they just announced Disney.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Disney is going to be so fun. I have to smash up princesses. Like, I have to do like Pirate Ariel or Pirate Cinderella. Like, I mean, come on.
I'm gonna do like Dinosaur Belle. Are you kidding?
Or who doesn't want Captain America in The Beast or something?
Captain America Aliens.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a really fun, unique, but it's infinitely expandable. Like, obviously, if it's been around for 10 years, they're doing something right. They're capturing interest, and they're being able to stay relevant in the board gaming, which, I mean, is very difficult to do.
It is. I think it's the fact that it's so fast. It's very easy to play. Take 2 decks, smash them together, area control on the bases, and you're trying to score points. I mean, it's a game that you can play. You can teach it in less than 5 minutes and just go for it.
Friend Ben's the one who introduced it to us.
Yeah, one of our friends in California.
Fort Irwin, yeah.
Yep, in the military.
He was so excited about it.
Shoot, man, that was many moons ago.
I know. I just had this memory pop up, and I was like, "Wow, that was a long time ago."
I think most of everybody here has played Smash Up at some point, right?
Yeah, it's an enduring classic. I still see it, pulled out at game nights. Well, pre-pandemic, I would still see it, and it's just that mix of, it's super easy to get to the table because you're literally just taking 2 different decks, smashing them together, and with all the different expansions, they have all the fun, different IPs and themes and stuff. It's super appealing and super easy to get to the table, and I will, I still play it. I mean, it's just easy to get to the table. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is one I actually haven't ever owned, I don't think. Or maybe I've just played other people's copies. I don't know. But now that I've got my 11-year-old, I think, and not that it's a kid's game, I don't want to say it that way, but I think it's probably the perfect kind of game for me to introduce to my son that we could just throw down and play, because they love to play like Love Letter and some of those games that are just play a card and go and then shuffle, all that kind of stuff. So I think you might have just talked me into maybe trying to track down a copy myself, because I think it might be perfect for where I'm at right now.
There you go. I love it. That's a great segue, mentioning kids. We're going to talk about a game that is a little bit more mature and maybe not for your 11-year-old. But this is Final Girl from Van Ryder Games. Final Girl is a solo game, so it fits into our question that we asked in the community, solo gaming. They just had an epic Season 2 Kickstarter that just went bonkers, and that is so cool. So I think, has anybody else played Final Girl, or am I?
No,
has anybody played that one?
I want to, though. It sounds amazing.
So Final Girl is a solo only game. It's are you familiar with Hostage Negotiator?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so it uses hostage negotiator. They took that system and then they put it onto kind of that. Well, they put it on that horror survival, that campy kind of situation where you've got a killer on the loose, killing random civilians, and you have decided that you're going to go up against this killer and take him down.
You're the one girl.
You're the one girl standing in this killer's way, and it is wild. It is so hard, but at the same time, the hand management system of how you're using your cards for actions and using cards for getting rerolls and things, because it's a dice rolling game, and you're running around on a map and you're collecting items and crafting and getting weapons and things to try to do better, essentially find an easier way to kill the boss. And it's tough. I've died more than I've won it. I'll leave it there. Camp Grizzly was the one that I played, and then there is and I'm blanking on the name here, but it's the circus one, like a haunted circus, and that one was pretty wild. But the season 2, they kind of took like movie tropes. I'm really excited about those, like Alien and The Thing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I'm really, really excited. I actually just filled out the pledge manager for that this last week. And finish that. But Final Girl is fantastic. If you're into hostage negotiator or any sort of like solo gaming experience, the way that they crafted each of the boxes, also like the way that so it's super cool. When you open the box, it's magnetized, and you open it up and it has the player boards on the reverse side and the map on the reverse side. So like you take a Final Girl, like the character, and then you take a boss, like one of the enemies, and then it's all right there for you to play straight off the box. The way that they packaged it was just, it was so creative. So hats off to them.
I mean,
that's awesome.
Final Girl is its own like genre. I mean, there's movies, there's books. It's its own.
Yeah, it is.
Become its own genre. Like I read 2 different books that were both, Final Girl. One was called Final Girl. One was Final Girl Support Club. So I love that it's finally branched into board gaming, and they're like, yes, we can do. This is a great idea.
And I mean, the fact that the Kickstarter just went nuclear. I mean, I think they over $2 million, I think it was, or something like that. It was a lot of money.
Insane. Yeah,
it was definitely over $1 million.
Yeah,
and they did an awesome job.
Yeah, that's what I loved about that campaign, is the fact that anyone that says solo gaming is not a thing, I just point them there. Like, solo gaming is a huge thing, So kudos to them.
Yeah. Now let me ask you, Derek, about the theme. Like I said a minute ago, that's usually what gets me to check it out. So I'm not necessarily into that theme, but I keep hearing people tell me how great the game is. So if I'm not into the theme, am I still going to love it?
So I'm not a horror fan. I'll be honest with you. I'm not a fan of like horror movies and stuff, but the way that the game works and the way that it all like interacts with itself, and the way that you have to, like, the boss gets powered up as he kills civilians, and you go, it's this basically it's this timing where you have to either power up fast enough to beat him early, or find the perfect opening where he doesn't get so strong that he's going to be able to kill you to like later in the game. So it's just fine balance of working against the clock, which the clock again is like just the game turns the way that it goes on. And I'll be honest with you, it is hostage negotiator on steroids. They took hostage negotiator and turned it up to 1,000, and they just they knocked it out of the park. I like the way that they've incorporated the hand management, giving you rerolls and a lot of the equipment, and how they've just kind of branched out with tons of different unique scenarios. So, I mean, it's probably the solo game I've played the most in the last year. So
very cool. Very cool.
All right. The next game we have, I'd love to chat about Four Gardens from Arcane Wonders. And Ruel, I think you might be the only person that's actually played this one.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh,
and,
Stephanie has.
Oh, Steph has as well. Okay,
okay,
perfect.
Cool.
Take it away.
Cool. Yeah. Stephanie, you want to lead the way?
No, go ahead. I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay.
No.
That's no worries. Our listeners can't see my shelves behind me, but you all can, and I have Four Gardens right behind me. This one, it's a set collection game. It's a beautiful, gorgeous package, and what it is, like when you first open the box, you take out this tower, like this pagoda, and you think, like, at least for me, I thought, okay, this is a nice little gimmick. It's a pagoda. It's got resources on it. It's actually really integral to the game. It's this like puzzly, like, how am I going to set myself up to get the resources I want in order to build the oh gosh, now I forget. Are we painting, Stephanie? Is that what it is? Or are we actually building landscapes or something? It's reminds me a little bit of Tokaido in that sense, right? You got these really beautiful landscapes you're putting together, but you're it's resource management and hand management. And oh gosh, it's such a gorgeous package and plays well, just so smoothly. Michelle and I really, really enjoyed it. It was one of our favorites. Gosh, was it last year or the year before? It might have been the year before. But it was originally done by Korea Board Games. That company, they put some really good stuff out, and Arcane Wonders picked it up, and it was a hit with us. And I definitely recommend it. It's a wonderful and gorgeous package. What about you, Stephanie? What'd you think of it?
I mean, I agree. I think the thing that actually got me into it was the pagoda itself. I was like, that's
Yeah.
really cool. I want to see how they integrate that into the game. I actually was having a hard time trying to figure out which way to actually go because some of the cards are from the bottom to the top or the top to the
Yep.
bottom. And so, figuring out what kind of items you're trying to get in order to, create your goal here. It was pretty I would say different. I don't think I've seen a lot of games that do that, but it was really beautiful as well. And I have to say, yeah, I was really happy that I got the game as well and got to play it
Yeah.
because it really did kind of give that satisfying feeling after you're playing it that you feel like you've accomplished something, which is always something
Right.
that I want in a game. I want to feel like I did something.
Agreed. And, I'm glad you brought that up about the pagoda. So, you would think that just playing it, okay, I'm going to turn it left and then
Yep.
this, I'm going to get those resources. No, it's like you turn it from the bottom, or you may turn it left or right, depending on the card. And then the card will tell you, do you take the resource from bottom to top or top to bottom? And there's also certain cards that you spin the middle part, but not the bottom part. And at the same time, there's the one rule restriction that's brutal, but in an awesome way. You only have a limited number of resources you can get.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm getting water from the bottom and going to the top, and I want like the lumber, if I've already maxed out my water, I cannot get that lumber. So it's brutal, but in a good puzzly way.
That's awesome. One of the things, and I was just looking up on Board Game Geek, is I'm a sucker for panoramic games. So like Kamigawa did it, Tokaido's done it. Anytime you build out a panoramic view of something, to me, it just looks awesome. Like I finished the game and I'm either really happy or really sad because I didn't finish the panorama.
Exactly.
Or it just looks really cool. And this is also a game that's part of the Dice Tower Essentials list as well. So I know that a lot of people really like this. And I think that this has got to shoot up to the list of things that we play soon.
Yeah, definitely check it out.
It looks really, really cool. All right, the next game that we're going to chat about is Moonrakers from Ivy Studios. So we're going to talk about Ivy Studios. We'll talk about Moonrakers because we've all played that game. And I think Ruel has a little bit to talk about with Veiled Fate.
Yeah.
So Moonrakers, why don't we go ahead and lead us in? Ruel, you want to talk about that first?
Yeah, Moonrakers. Well, Ivy Studios in general, they're up and comer as far as board game companies go. And I think they put out such high quality products, right? And especially with the Moonrakers game, like if you get that deluxe Kickstarter version with the metal coins and all the goodies, I mean, it's wonderful. And this is a game it's a really neat blend of deck building, and what surprised me was negotiation, right? It's sort of like semi-cooperative. You're trying to land these contracts, and you can't do it by yourself, especially at the start of the game. So you're asking your fellow players, hey, who wants to throw in some resources to get this? And you start negotiating, well, I'll give you a victory point if you give me all these resources, and vice versa. Such a clever game, and it moves I think it moves quickly I think I played it at 3 and 4 players. It's such a cool little mix of deck building and negotiation, which I didn't expect. And I didn't expect to like it. I loved it. So that's Moonrakers. Thoughts?
That's a good endorsement right there. Wasn't expecting to like it and loved it. I mean,
loved it. Yeah.
I think it's definitely a very interesting, like to me, deck building and negotiation is just an odd mix. And in this game, it works so well. I know, Lizzie, you really like it.
And I love the negotiation because it really leaves it up to the players. There's no, this is what equals this. You can trade whatever you want. You can do as much as you want. And it's really, what are you willing to pay for this? How convincing can you be that, this is going to be really helpful for you in the long run too? And I love that dynamic. I think that's something that we have not seen in I mean, any board games that I can think of off the top of my head. Usually it's, you can trade in 2 for 1, or this is a wild resource that you can use. And there's not really any of that. It's whatever you make up at the time, whatever you decide is going to be best. And you can convince another player is going to be best.
Yeah, I love that. Jimmy, how about yourself?
No, I haven't. I haven't played.
You haven't
one,
played it?
so.
Okay.
No, and it's interesting hearing you talk about the negotiation, because that's one of those mechanisms that I'm always like, oh, I don't know. What if I'm bad at it? And like, I don't know. Is it just going to the most charismatic person at the table? Or are people going to work with me? So I mean, it sounds like maybe it doesn't have that problem then, huh?
Yeah, Jimmy, I think you're right. Like, I'm not a big fan of negotiation games either, but this one, like, you actually have, like, okay, if you, in your hand, if you have, like, these resources, yes, you can negotiate with so-and-so because they need those to get that contract, and say, hey, I have these 2 resources. You might have to give me a victory point for them, and you could get these or whatever. So it makes the negotiations, I think, a little easier and a little easier to get into as well.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I'm not really into
sorry,
that.
go ahead, Steph.
Oh, no, you're fine. I was going to say I'm not really into negotiation, because they're like, I'll give you, this for 5 of yours. I'm like, okay, here you go. Just take it. I don't want to fight you. Like, so I feel like Lizzie would probably like zone in on that if I played the game with her, and she'd be like, okay, I'm going to take all of her stuff. I just had this feeling as soon as she said I love that. And I'm like, oh, no.
No, but I am like very like, not like anti-play interaction, but I try and keep it to a minimum. So if I'm going out to get something, it's because I know I need it. And so I'm going to be like, look, this is what's going to be best for you. And I'm trying to convince you that like, you need this too. And I'm like, well, what do you want to get? What do you think it's worth? And so you can like have a conversation. It's not like you need to give me this. It's like, what can I give you to work with me?
So one of the really cool parts about Moonrakers is it's deck building. So what you can offer in the moment is what you have available to you, like what you can play to help your opponents with, like if you can help them defeat an enemy, or if you can help them with like certain different things. And probably my favorite part of it is not the negotiation. I love the negotiation part because I love making deals and wheeling and dealing and try to like working that out. But for me, it's the fact that almost every card in the game is just crazy powerful. So when you're purchasing new cards to go into your deck, there's never like a clear best card. Like they're all really good. So you're not just like some deck builders, you're like, well, this is the best card I can buy, so obviously I'm going to take it. And this one, it's like, wow, all of these are really good. It's like, what am I trying to build my deck to do? And that to me is why I keep going back to Moonrakers as a deck builder. I really like that. So, Ruel, give us a little bit about Veiled Fate, though, because I'm super intrigued. I've not gotten a chance to play it, but I know that it's hopefully fulfilling this year. And I would love to know a little bit more.
Yeah, this, so something I just said, and I realize it applies to this as well. I'm not a big social deduction fan, and Veiled Fate is a social deduction game that I end up loving as well.
Oh,
like
wow.
I just as surprised with them, actually more surprised than Moonrakers, because at least Moonrakers I knew I liked deck building. But Veiled Fate is a social deduction game, but it's a bit more. It's got strategy involved with it. You got a little hand management, bluffing and stuff like that, and it's one of those games. So you get like, I think everyone gets like a secret role, right? And you don't know who's who, so you're trying to figure out. But it's through the gameplay that you can start figuring out. It's not just like that typical, who can lie the best, right? No, you have a board. It's got a little bit of area control to it as well. And you're just moving along, and as you play it, you can start deducing, okay, so I see so-and-so in that area doing that. Now I sort of think it's not just because they're lying or whatever. It's actually, it makes sense, at least to me. I was very fortunate. Ivy Studio had me in a live stream for the launch date. So we played this epic 6-player game with Austin, one of the designers, Austin Harrison. Shout out to Austin. What's up, my man? And also Becca Scott, Mark Street from Dice Tower, and Edward from Heavy Cardboard, and Jessica as well. And it was so good. And we played it in like 90 minutes, I think. It doesn't take long at all for this type of game. And, about 3/4 of the way in the game, I was like, okay, I know Becca's on my team. I just figured it out. And she knew I was on her team way earlier. It takes me, I'm just slow at these things. And the fact that I knew Becca was on my team, is like, we're going to win. Becca's good at these games. And sure enough, we pulled off the victory. And it was so sweet. It's gonna. I mean, it was a huge hit on Kickstarter. It's gonna or GameFound, I think, and it's gonna. I think a lot of people are gonna really enjoy this game, including people like me who aren't really in social deduction. You're gonna be surprised at how well this game plays.
Yeah, it's I backed it on. I think it was on Kickstarter, and then they were also on GameFound, I want to say, but I definitely remember it being on Kickstarter. I feel like, but maybe I'm misremembering. But going back to the first during our mail call, Ivy Studios to me has become a studio where I will back their games regardless, like production quality, gameplay, just the whole package. Austin and the team over there have just done an incredible job of making their mark, right? Reputation based, and so they've got my wallet.
Yeah, same here. They also the latest one was Mythic Mischief, and that game is rock solid as well.
So fun.
Yeah, we love it.
That's like three. They're batting 1,000. You know, the 3 for 3. They're just fantastic company. Yep.
And all very different games.
Very vastly different.
Yeah, right.
Different ends of the spectrum. So that like shows like how deep they're like. They're not just okay. This is like we do this one type of game. That's what you're gonna get every time with a new theme or something like. They have been vastly different in their approaches to the games that they've made, and I love that from companies.
That's right. You have Moonrakers with deck building, negotiation. You have Veiled Fate, which is a strategy social deduction game, and then you have Mythic Mischief, which is basically an abstract game but with a bunch of like gamery twist to it. Minis, right? Yeah, it's just it's so awesome. And the one thing out of all three, they're totally different games, but the quality of components, everything, artwork, just top notch.
Yep. 100%. Totally agree. So the last game we're to mention that we'd like to talk about comes from Fireside Games. And this is a game that Lizzie and I, we didn't live stream it, but we recorded a video with Sebastian, who is our 4-year-old son. This is my first Castle Panic. I picked this up at Origins in 2021, and Seb loves this game. Like we played it every day for like
a couple weeks when
we got while.
And
he's still like he remembers how to play, how to set it up. He's like, oh, you got to go find the goblin with the star, and like those are the ones that go out, and knows how to set everything up. And it's just such a fun cooperative game. And it really, I saw a huge difference in just his willingness to share.
Yeah.
Like just teaching him, like, because with the game, you're trying to defeat goblins that are trying to knock down your castle. And so each player has a hand of 3 cards. It's 3, right?
No, you start with 1 and then you draw one on your turn.
Sorry.
So depending on how you're sharing and passing the cards, you can have any number.
You can share cards with other players. So if you don't have a card to match the icon, which are squares, circles, and triangles.
And then
you can
red, green, and blue.
Yeah, and red, green, and blue. You can ask another player for help. And so, like, just seeing him be like, hey, mommy, hey, daddy, can you help me defeat this goblin? Or like, hey, Sebastian, can you help me? And he's like, yeah.
And also, it's like, I mean, the game is set up to be fairly easy. So you do win a high percentage of the time, but you do lose. And I remember him losing and him pulling out the rule book. He's like, no, it says I won right here. And I was like, does it? I was like, and I read it. And I was like, does it say you win? And then he just like threw the paper and he's like, we're playing again. So he learned, he tried to convince me, and I was like, no, you lose sometimes. And he's like, okay, in that case, let's try it again.
Let's try again.
Because I'm not accepting defeat.
And this is again a spinoff of Castle Panic, which is a larger, more robust cooperative game for older kids and families. And my first Castle Panic has won a lot of awards. They won the Mom's Choice Award. They won Tiddlywig, which is a Best Children's Product. They've gotten the Seal of Excellence from Dice Tower. They got the American Tabletop Award nominee for early gamers. There's just a Origins Award nominee. So there's just a lot of really awesome nominations and awards that this game has won. And I think if you're listening to this and you have children in your house, probably 4 to 6. I would say that age range, maybe 4 to 7. I mean, they will love this game.
Yeah,
they will really, really enjoy it. And I can't recommend this one enough, especially for just the fact that you're recognizing icons, finding out patterns, and just learning to share.
Yeah, I think that's
a big thing.
It is a big
learning
thing.
to share is big.
And I think, I mean, working together and losing gracefully.
Yeah,
that's something that we've had to work with. Sad, because little kids, they always want to win. But they have to learn that they're not always going to be, the winners, especially as they're getting older. They're going to go to school. They're not going to be the only kid around. Because right now, only child, there's no competition for him, you know? So teaching him, you know, hey, if you're going to be in kindergarten, you're going to play with some kids, you might not always be the winner. You might not always be, you know, first in line. You know, you got to set expectations so that they can learn to be gracious to their fellow children.
Hey, why are you looking at me like that when you say that?
I didn't say anything.
Oh, right. Is that look? No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, so that's the On the Topper segment. And if you've played any of these games that we mentioned, we would love to know your feedback. Please leave us a comment on social media as you see these posts. We'd love to interact with you. And also with our mail call. I didn't mention it at the end, but I do want to let you know that if you have a question you want to submit, you can submit it to us via email or social media, Twitter, really anywhere, Facebook. We've got the Facebook group where we try to field questions. And we just want to know what you want to talk about. You know, we'd love to answer your questions.
Silly, serious, whatever.
Our next segment is brought to you by KickTrack. KickTrack is a crowdfunding analytics and discovery platform.
This episode, we're going to talk about Loads of Roads. Now, this is a dynamic city building experience. We want to show off in this segment an indie publisher, an up-and-coming publisher, someone who is looking for funding on crowdfunding, whether it is Kickstarter or GameFound or whatever it is. But we want to utilize this segment to give an indie publisher the spotlight and to allow our listeners and our fans to go give this project a look. And we're going to talk about this one. This one is currently seeking funding, and it is a 2019 Ion Award winner. And you are designing a city. You are working as like a city manager, and you're competing for resources, and you are building up structures on your map. And the objective is that you are working on a large construction site. You want to create the best city that you can over the course of 12 rounds, and whoever has the most victory points at the end of those 12 rounds wins. One of the cool things about this is the purchasing phase is all done simultaneously. So when you are constructing your buildings and they are, strategically constructing those, you have the resources, and it does speed up the play. Each player is going to have workers that they're placing and attributing to different structures that they're wanting to build in their city. And this one looks really fun. I am a big fan of indie publishers and people who are looking to get their dreams made, right? To find somebody that we can come alongside of and help spread the word. So if this game sounds interesting, if Loads of Roads sounds like something that you might want to take a look at, it is currently on Kickstarter for another 17 days. We'd love for you to go take a look at the campaign. And of course, in the comments, let us know what you think. This has been your KickTrack Spotlight. We'll catch you next time.
This interview is sponsored by This Little Bean of Mine, bringing you fresh, unique coffee within 2 weeks of roasting. All right, I'm here with Jason Perez with Shelf Stories Consulting. Thanks for jumping on the podcast with us today.
Yo, my peoples, what's up? Thank you very much. Board Game Spotlight. I'm so excited. I've been listening to Board Game Spotlight. Lizzie and Derek and James and yourself and a lot of different people, cast characters been popping in and out. Glad you guys were able to reboot.
Yeah, so excited to kind of get this thing going again. And there's kind of this new excitement to make it happen. And so we're excited to have you on. You are our second guest on our relaunch. So welcome.
Wow,
and,
I feel so honored.
You're at the top of the list. So here we go, right?
Maybe it's you just like went down the list of people who post on Board Game Spotlight, the Facebook group. It's like, all right, you, not you.
No. I promise there's no such list. So we are just excited to have you on. So tell us a little bit about what you do. I know you've got YouTube podcasts, you got some consulting, obviously. That's the name of what we introduced you as. So, but tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of background and what you're doing now.
Okay. My name is Jason Perez. I run a YouTube channel called Shelf Stories, which is a gaming-centered podcast, but above the table. I do gaming stuff for the One Stop Co-op Shop and also the Dice Tower. That's where they get my reviews, my playthroughs, my game, happy fun times type things. I like being a part of a team. But when it comes to Shelf Stories, it doesn't belong anywhere. It needs to be its own thing. So I'm happy to, have that. And it's my editorial show. I mean, I comment on stuff. I'm a humanist. I'm a psychotherapist. I love humans, and I love the human aspect of gaming. And it isn't just about having fun, and that's really important. I really want that. I get accused of that. Oh, I'm the no fun guy. So, okay, I'm here to cancel people's fun and all kinds of stuff. No, come on now.
Right.
So I think there's things in games that people aren't totally aware happens, and it could be a bunch of things. So it's like, I'm famous for the cultural stuff, right? We'll get to the consulting part because it's a cultural consulting business. We'll get to that later. But it's not just that. Like, I mean, there's mental health stuff that goes on the table. People bring their own stuff, and it's like, okay, if I'm playing a game, people becoming over competitive and flipping the table, going out, it's like, man, there's some anger over here. Let's just talk about that.
Yeah.
And it's not, it's just a game. It's not just a game. The whole thing. I'm into history. I'm into just anything human that comes that gamers bring, and that gaming unites us. But I want to explore all that stuff, and that's what Shelf Stories is all about. So I have all different kind of streams of videos, but as I said, it's the cultural stuff that kind of really took off, because I think that we're in a moment post George Floyd, post a lot of different things that have happened in our culture, that I think there's a thirst to be able to talk about these things intelligently without devolving into like arguing and politics and all that nonsense. I talk politics on my show, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that we need to, and we need to work that muscle out and get better at talking to one another. That's what my channel is all about. Coming up with all those third world topics, but coming up with intelligent, compassionate ways to speak about them.
No, I love it. I totally love it. And I appreciate what you said about this moment. And personally, for me, George Floyd was that moment where all these things have been happening for years, for decades. I've always been in it, but it was in that moment where I finally said personally, where I said, okay, let me get involved. Let me find out what I can do personally. And so there was kind of a moment where that happened for me. So I totally appreciate like what you're saying, that we're here and let's do something about it now. So that's good.
And at the end of the day, like I say politics, but really what it really is what does our hobby look like? Who's in it? Who feels welcome? Whose voices are heard? And who's on the boxes? Who's designing the games? Who's running the conventions? And that could sound like a racial thing. It is a racial thing. It's a gender thing. It's a orientation thing. It's a class thing. It's a location thing. It's getting past the idea of like gamer, abstract gamer. Because when you take an abstract gamer, it's going to default to somewhere. It's going to default to, white, male, middle class, usually middle of the country, that kind of thing. And I want to diversify that. And I want to open up pathways. And I think that there are barriers, and that's going to be a big point of friction, where there are people, what barriers is talking about? It's like, well, watch my show. Not that they can't be overcome, not that they can't be, but just there are barriers. Let's talk about them. Let's deconstruct them and really make a space. And I think that, the success of my channel, people are really, vibing with what I'm doing. And, not everybody, but I think I've even like conservative or moderate or people kind of on who don't think like me can come into my channel and get something. They don't agree with me, but at least they understand the perspective a little bit more. And that's the barrier, that now, achievement unlocked or barrier unlocked or whatever it is. And that's, I pride myself on that. And if I can do that more and more, then that's what I'm all about.
So tell us about your consulting and maybe the heart of what that is. And I guess if people wanted to reach out to you, what they could expect to get if they made a connection with you.
So I mean, I have the videos and there's education there, and there's discussion, there's debate and all that, I'm on forums and BGG and Facebook and different places, and you could leave it there, right? You can leave it at the level of let's talk more. And that's okay. I want to create change. Like I really want the games to look different. I don't just want to talk about it. I want to make it happen. And I'm not going to be a person that just kind of, sits there at the peanut gallery, throwing my peanuts and my popcorn and be like, you got to do it better. I mean, I want to be an active part of that process. So I've started to consult with companies, and in the middle of, as we speak in March, consolidating and forming it into a real business. But I've already kind of started doing it with certain companies. So it's Shelf Stories Consulting. The full name is Shelf Stories Consulting for Cultural Awareness and World Building. That is a mouthful, but consulting is perfectly fine. And I offer a range of services. So at the very first thing, many games come out and you look at the cover, you look at the rule book, or you look at the gameplay, and you're like, couldn't someone have just checked this?
Yeah.
Can we just couldn't someone with any kind of awareness give this a once over and kind of point things out? Maybe there's a black character, but their features are, exaggerated. They look mean. They conform with the stereotypes. A woman character with the usual TNA poses, like really obvious stuff that games tend to get wrong. When you just kind of, I want attention for my project and I want to do whatever. So at the very basic level, I do that. I know the kind of mistakes that games make. I have a basic facility with, marginalized cultures. I'm Puerto Rican, so I'm Latino. So I also have a lot of experience with Black and indigenous, and on a basic level. So I can give your game a look. I charge $100, and for $100, it's like I can give me your art, give me your lore, and I'll peruse the thing, and then I'll let you know if there's a problem or not. And that's whatever the service is. And then when you want to go deeper, like I've worked with, well, at this point it's released now. So one of my first big clients was Chip Theory. Have you played a Chip Theory game?
Yes, I love Cloudspire. That's
Cloudspire,
the only one I play.
Too Many Bones. Yes. So I am credited with Burn Cycle. Burn Cycle is delivering or beginning to deliver to people, and then so Too Many Bones and that kind of thing. So then they send me the art assets. I check them. These are great. This is great. You want to rethink this, or I'll ask a question. It's like, okay, maybe there's something that's on the fence. It's like, and Burn Cycle had a couple of multicultural kind of aspects to it, because it's like the story of it is there's an apocalypse in the world, and then it's reborn, right? And like, the humans all died, the machines were there, and the machines in their infinite wisdom decided to resurrect all the humans. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's in the real world, and it's in a future version of the real world. So like when you have humans in your game, humans have culture. Like we're not just, humans, like get the cultural elements right. So then that's not an expertise over there, like in terms of world culture, and the game spans worldwide. So I took a look, and and so that was a little bit more involved. So like, obviously the more time I spend, the more money I charge. But for the most part, I really dive in, multiple checks, multiple rounds, asking people. It's like, okay, what's the story behind this? How can this be better, or whatever it is, highlighting something. And I've gotten the feedback that like when I point something out, let's say I point out a stereotype, it's usually like a stereotype is like a 2D flat representation. The answer to that usually is to make it 3D, give it more depth, give it more, of a story. And that is, so in a way, it's like people think, oh my God, you're giving it to the Politburo to like, for me to say yes or no. Like, no, it's to tell better stories and to not rely on the flat, boring stuff. So it's like, okay, let's talk about this part. I won't say what it is, but okay, this is stereotyped. How do you you retell this so that's a little bit more organic, and it came back and it's better. Like everybody thinks it's better, even the artist, the writer, people in the creative room, they're like, oh wow, this was great. So then that starts to get into the world building aspect of what I do. So on the other side, so I'll give you your checks, I'll check the game, but then on the other end of the spectrum, I am willing to just sit with a creator and construct your thematic world for your game. And I've done that. There was a big project, redacted, that will be announced fairly soon. And I sat with the creators, and it's like, okay, this is what do you want to do? It involves marginalized culture. Do this, not this. Do this, not this. Do this, not this. Let's link up with an historian, link up with other people, and just do a whole new game, like or the same game but like a whole new thematic story. And I'd love that. I'd be willing to do that too. You know, so, and the end of the day, I think like the publisher is very happy. Matter of fact, the publisher just emailed me. They said, okay, we're finishing up this one game. Here's, you know, the next game. And that's how you know that that works. Because like, I'm not forcing them. Like they could, you know, they could release whatever, but they like it. Like they like the different perspective. They like the better story. And I think I'm a pretty good storyteller, a thematic person. I've always reviewed thematic games in my podcast. So like, that's kind of everything dovetails. So then, so that's what the business is. So the business is, you know, I'll do your checks, or I'll also kind of rewrite your thematic story. And then the last part, I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot, but like, I'm very excited. I'm starting a business.
Yeah, you should be.
The last part is I'm working on this last part I'm working on. It isn't just me, because I'm just one person. You know, I'm getting to know a lot of other consultants, cultural people. So if it's a culture I don't know as well, South Asian, you know, or East Asian, or whatever it is, Arabic, Middle Eastern, I will find that person. It's like I'll create like a little you know, family of consulting. So like, you know, when you contact Shelf Stories Consulting, it's a one-stop shop. You know, I will find somebody. If I can't help you, I'll find somebody that will, that can realize the vision of that particular game. So that's all that is going to be the ultimate vision for what I'm talking about.
So if people are interested in connecting with you, where and how can they do that?
This podcast has inspired me to get on my butt and make the website. So at some point during the month of March, by April of 2022, I will have a website. And you can contact me on the website. It'll be Shelf Stories Consulting. Right for now, you can contact me on my YouTube channel, Shelf Stories, Twitter, Shelf Stories GBL, Games Books Life, at Shelf Stories GBL on Twitter, and you know, my Facebook and other things are open. So I'm pretty, you know, I'm not famous. I'm not famous enough yet to like not to like discourage people from contacting me. Hopefully the what I'm doing kicks off and I get a little bit more you know, traction with this. But yeah, so I'm very, you know, people hit me up and I'll answer them right away.
Well, I appreciate it. It's great talking with you, and best of luck on all of your endeavors.
Thank you very much.
And now for Industry Insider, where we pull back the curtain to talk about what it takes to make the board games that we love.
This is part of the Industry Insider, and we are going to talk about the large elephant in the room of shelves of opportunity.
Oh, okay.
And how big is your shelf of opportunity? We're going to tell on each other or tell on ourselves, I guess. Our shelf of opportunity is quite large, and we are trying to whittle that down, of course. And it doesn't help when Miniature Market puts out a sale on 2222 for $22, and Lizzie's like, "What's this?" No, it's all good. But anyways, I mean, you know, always acquiring new games, review copies and things coming through. You know, you can get backlogged a little bit, right? As gamers, you can easily turn into a collector of sorts if you're not careful, right? But the question is, and this doesn't have to be a single game, but I just want to know, on your shelf of opportunity, let's talk about the games that you're excited to play. Who wants to go first?
Jimmy first?
Oh, you're going to throw to Jimmy.
Oh, yeah. I bought Forgotten Waters, I don't know how long ago, and it has been on my shelf. I've read it, I've set it up on the table, and then something has happened, and then I pack it back up, and I've taken it out again. And anyways, I'm so excited to play this one, and it's finally going to happen this weekend, and so I'm looking forward to it. But I love the story driven. There's an app with audio and all of that kind of stuff, and then the board, and then anyways, just the whole idea of the game and pirate theme, you know, is at the top of my list. Space and pirates. I don't know why. I just love them so much. So this one caught my eye. And so I'm hoping that I get it to the table this weekend, because I've heard that it's just great.
So I want to know from you. So are you like, and if you're listening to this, I would like to know in comments as well. But I am notorious for getting a game and just opening it up, like getting into it, opening up, looking at the components, pulling out the rule book. I usually am really good about reading the rule book, sitting down and just reading it. and then putting the game away and not touching it for like 2 to 3 months.
So reading the rule book
this-
really goes a long way.
I feel like at this point, this is my support group. I love hearing all this.
We're gonna have to call this Board Game Anonymous or something like that,
Seriously.
where we're like, support group for how many games did you buy today? Or
Exactly.
I'm actually in one of those groups.
There you go.
I love it.
We support each other buying games, which is the opposite of what it was originally meant for.
Right. So you all become enablers at that point. Like, oh, just
Yeah.
this new
Right.
game. Or like, oh, they got this sale. And I'm like, why are you sending me a link for more games? I don't need it. And you're like,
I told you, Care Bear Confessions. That's what
There
it
it
is.
is.
We're just
There it
confessing.
Jimmy, I think you're gonna really enjoy Forgotten Waters. I've loved it.
Good.
And the app, like the voice actors they got to it, are so good at it. It's so immersive. I'm really excited for you, my friend.
Yay, good.
Steph, what's a game that you're excited to play?
There's a lot.
Mhm.
I'm just like looking at my shelf over here, and I'm like, well, there's Obsession, there's Raiders of the North Sea, Rise of
Yes.
Tribes, The Great Wall, Cascadia.
Nice.
These are all in shrink on my. So, like you were saying, there's only some games that I get that I have to open as soon as I get them because I just need to see the components because it was just a part of the reason why I wanted the game. But I try to not do that and just have all these shiny games reflecting back at me to like shame me or something to say, hey, you need to play this. So there's a lot of games, which is why I'm part of that group, which again just enables each other to buy more games. So maybe I should start another group. Tell me not to buy this, please.
So I know we talked about this at length in our 2021 top games of the year, but get Cascadia. You can learn that game in 5 minutes, and you'll check it off. It literally is so fast, and it will make you feel so good. That game is just, it's so
Brilliant.
perfect. It's so perfect.
Yep, agreed.
It's
Lizzie,
still
what
in
do you got on
shrink.
your
I will
list?
do that. I will do that after this.
You
Yes.
should, and I love that game. All right, Lizzie, what about you?
Shadow Kingdoms of Valyria, because it's a Stan game.
Stan game.
So I have not played that one yet.
We haven't played any of the Valyria games.
Well, I did not know it was part of a series.
Mhm.
Honestly, I only care because it's Stan.
Stan.
So I'm probably not going to be diving into the world of Valyria. I'm just going to be diving into the world of Grenonsky.
It's actually really funny. Like if Stan has a game, I know I can just buy it. It's like the safe bet. It's really kind of nice
I'm
because
like, oh, what's this? He's like, oh, it's Stan Corner. I'm like, okay, awesome. What is it getting?
What was the game that he just had on Kickstarter? I played at Origins, and you were super bummed about.
The Russian
post-apocalyptic game
yeah
that he had. I'm blanking on the name. That happens to me too often.
I can
but
see
it
the
is
artwork.
Resurgence.
What is that
Resurgence.
called?
Resurgence.
Resurgence.
Yeah.
Oh man, Lizzie, you're gonna love that.
I know.
Orleans.
Well,
and
I mean,
area-
I
oh,
played-
so good.
I played it on
You
TTS,
did.
which is like
You
a
did.
huge. Like, I don't like playing games online. I've played like 2 or 3. So the fact that like I was like, okay, I'm gonna sit down and play this game because it's Stan. It says a lot.
It does. That's a huge compliment.
It is. I do not like playing TTS. And in fact, like I wasn't even like in control. I was like, Derek, do this, like move
It's
this
true.
here.
I just had to do everything for her. She was telling me what she wanted done. So
I was just sitting there while Derek moved the controls. He was like my little robot.
I was a marionette. I was the puppeteer.
I was like, flip
I
that
love
card. Wait, how do I do this?
Ruel, what about yourself? What about you?
We're talking about cardboard confessional. I'm gonna go in cardboard confessional mode right now. I don't have a shelf of shame. I have piles of shame. Literally, like you can see I have my shelves behind me. My shelf of shame is actually in the living room. I just have piles of games that are there that I just I can pick one. It's like, oh, I haven't played this. So for the one that I'm most excited about is right there on the top. I backed it a while ago. It's Cora Quest, the game by Dan Hughes and his daughter Cora. I opened it, read the rule book, and I put it back, and it looks wonderful. It's a dungeon crawler, family weight game. I cannot wait to play it, and one of these days I will. It's Cora Quest. that's the on top of my shelf of or my pile of shame out there in the living room.
Now
doesn't earn a spot on the shelf until you played it.
Oh yeah.
I'm a fan now. You know, the shelf of shame, pile of shame, however you want to do it. I think it's funny. I love that kind of ingest. I like to say, and this is a shout out to my friend Philip Millman, who was the first person I saw post about this, but it's a shelf of opportunity. Mm-hmm. It's just an opportunity waiting to happen, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes that opportunity becomes unruly. Mm-hmm. But no, I mean, sometimes you need that shame, like that whole like shame.
Right. Yeah, when it starts taking over the living room like it has, I would refer it to my shelf of opportunity, but now that it's out in the living room and just on the floor and stuff, yeah, it's shameful. I need to start culling some games soon.
Mm-hmm. I mean, at some point when moving around and just moving through your house becomes a dexterity game in and of itself, you
might have reevaluate a little.
Yeah, we need to reevaluate big time.
I've done that for sure. So there's a couple games like Steph that I have on my shelf of
one. You get one. You get one.
Oh my gosh. This is stemming from me trying not to talk as much, and I feel like I've done okay, but we'll see.
So we're going to keep you to it.
One game.
I know what you're going to say.
Okay, Ark Nova. It's got to be Ark Nova. Ooh. We got that from the pre-order on Capstone a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and we've just been really busy with life. And I got to get that to the table. But I am so excited. I mean, the fact that this game released at Essen 2021 and has already rocketed up to the top 100 games of all time on BGG is incredible. I mean, that's 6 months that it's gone from nothing to top. And actually, I'm intrigued because I think it was a week ago when I looked at where it was at 111. So I am curious. I'm going to look up right now where this game is. And it is currently sitting at number 76.
Wow.
Number 33 strategy game of all time. So for those of you who don't know, I mean, it's basically a huge Frankenstein mashup of terraforming Mars and polyomino Tetris like building, and you're running a zoo. Like you are designing and running and managing a zoo, and it's got hexes and oh man, there's so much. It's engine building and drafting and tile placement, resource management. There's so much going on in this game, and it looks fantastic. So it's at the top of my list.
It's sitting at an 8.7.
8.7 is the aggregate list.
That's pretty crazy.
So to put that in perspective, I mean, not to go too crazy about this game because I know a lot of people are singing its praises. But like right now, there are no aggregate 8.7s in the top 100. Like Gloomhaven sits at a 8.5 and it's the number one game of all time. Mm-hmm. There's average rating. So maybe 8.7. So you're looking at like Pandemic has an 8.4, Brass Birmingham's at an 8.6. I mean, this is pretty incredible. Mm-hmm. So Ark Nova. I'm excited. It's a heavier game too, so it is a heavy game. But I love heavy games. So, Ruel and Steph, why don't you give us a quick overview, or just let's talk about Dice Tower West. I was not able to go. I saw a lot of awesome pictures. I'd love to know a little bit more about the convention.
Yeah, you know what? I think you talking about Ark Nova is like the perfect segue into this because that was the game that was being played everywhere at Dice Tower West. Literally, I saw it almost, I mean, just anytime I'd go walk the main hall, there's Ark Nova being played. There's Ark Nova being played. So it is getting a lot of love and people are digging it. I actually have a friend that went just for the weekend. All he did on Saturday was teach and play Ark Nova. He did it like 6 times all night, all day, all night long. So but overall, I had a wonderful experience at Dice Tower West. I am bummed, though, that I didn't get to meet up with Stephanie out there. We, it's one of those things, how conventions go. It's so crazy, so many people, and you can only, hang out and meet up with, with your limited time. But Steph, how was your con experience? I know you didn't go the entire time, did you?
No, I only went mainly to help out with Elf Creek. I was at their booth helping them with some games and just helping them explain the new Merchants of the Dark Road and how it plays to people. And Yeah,
Nice.
so I was there for a couple hours, and then I just kind of hung around. I said hi to Moonshine Empire. They were there again, so I haven't seen them since the last convention. And yeah, I didn't really actually get to play any games. I was just kind of there to help
Yeah,
out and said hi to some people, and then I was out. But I did get to meet James, so in person, which was great.
that's awesome. Yeah, Elf Creek. So did you get to work with Monique? Monique is awesome. She's like the
Yes.
nicest
I
lady.
love Monique.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's
love,
super
love, love
sweet.
Monique. Yeah. So that's cool. I was thinking like my favorite, again, just meeting people, getting to hang out. Like I met a lot of other fellow content creators. Also got to see some prototypes. I actually headed out. I went out to the AEG house. They have a house in near Vegas, and I went there and play tested a bunch of stuff. And one of my highlights, I've got to talk about this. I played Last Light, Roy Canada's game. I was blown away. Like all the hype, it's a 4X game that plays in 60 to 90 minutes. It is true, friends. I mean, just think of like Han Solo in Force Awakens. It's true. All of it. It was a wonderful experience. By the way, that was for Derek. I know we're some fellow Star Wars buddies here. But yeah, it's a really interesting thing. Like he did this, the way he designed it, it's a hand management game, but you're doing it simultaneously. So you're playing cards to do your actions at the same time, and it totally speeds up the game. And within like a round, you're building ships. The next round, you're attacking each other. The next round, you're mining resources. Oh, it's brilliant. And by the time I think you have to collect a 20 light, which is like 20 crystals or whatever, and it's a race to that. And we timed it. Roy taught it. It took 50 minutes to teach it. He timed it from the get-go till the end. 6-player game, 60 minutes. I kid you not. It was wonderful. And it's coming to GameFound at the end of this month. I think it's going to be a huge hit. And I mean, I just got to shout out Roy. He's done a phenomenal job with that game.
Wow, that's cool.
I've been following him, posting about it on social media, Facebook predominantly, and it's definitely probably the most anticipated Euro of this year for me. It's going to be really cool. No, it's funny. He's got this like back and forth, like people calling it Euro. I think it's hilarious,
right?
But it's a super thematic game. I'm all in just on the fact of what you've said, Ruel, and I've seen a lot of people talking about. I mean, Brie Goldman is a good friend of ours. She was telling me how great the game was because she played it. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, it was again, and I got to play. So Roy played with us and a couple of my buddies, and we also played with Brandon from Meeple Mountain and Amy and Maggie from Thinker Themer, and it was one of the best. It was like such a great gaming experience. I mean, they're all just wonderful people, but just seeing the game played, and even though I got crushed, it was still like I need to get this game. It was absolutely lived up to the hype. It's awesome. Right, Steph. So you weren't able to play too many games, Steph. You're just teaching merchants.
Yeah, I don't think I played a single game. Yeah, I just taught merchants and told people about it. First, when I went there, I wasn't actually aware that they were going to have it. And they're like, oh, yeah, we have it here. Do you know how to play it? And I was like, no. So they taught it to me, and then I was teaching it to other people. So I was like, whew, really putting me on the spot there. It was good. But now I know how to play it for myself since I own it as well. So I was like, okay, this is great. Now I can go home and say, this is what we're going to play.
And you get a game off the shelf of opportunity. There you go. Get it off.
There it is. Perfect.
Give it a check, right? That's what I...
One thing
go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, one thing I'm going to say. So the convention, Dice Tower West, it moved from the old Westgate to the Rio. And the Rio was ginormous. It was huge. I mean, the space was awesome. You never felt like you were crowded at all. There were different rooms. We actually had something set up for the 3C Con, which was the content creator convention community thing where all content creators got to hang out with their supporters and friends and family and fans. It was a nice little space to have. So, shout out to all the volunteers that made it happen. It was just such a great experience, great convention hall to have it at. And I think they're locked in for another year or two there, which is good because the space is wonderful.
Way better.
One thing I got to say real quick, I really, Michelle and I were so happy about this. We got to eat at a couple of our favorite eateries while in Vegas. So Tacos El Gordo, some of the best tacos al pastor north of the border. And also the Steph, you know Tacos El Gordo, right?
Yes, I'm you do. So
love
good.
That place. Yeah, and then the other one was the Oyster Bar in Palace Station. we waited like an hour and a half, and that was after a friend of ours waited an hour before. So 2.5 hour wait, absolutely worth every second of that wait. The seafood, Southern style seafood, phenomenal. Jambalaya, pan roast, oh my gosh. Anyways, I know this has nothing to do with the games, but as gamers, we need to stay well fed, and it was totally worth it.
No, listen, I mean, food is a necessity, and Lizzie and I are foodies. So if we want to talk about food on this podcast, we can do whatever we want. I mean, it's our podcast. So if we want to talk movies, media, books, I mean, one of the things that we want to talk to, this is only the second episode. So for those of you who are listening, we would love your feedback because we want to know what you want to hear, because we know as gamers that we are more than just board games, right? Ruel and I have a deep love of Star Wars. Lizzie is a bookworm. Steph, I think you also enjoy books, probably, or there's a lot of things. Anime is a big one, right? Mm-hmm. So there's some really cool stuff that we all kind of like can share and talk about our own experiences, and I love that. Like, so tacos, Ruel. Lizzie, why don't you talk about these?
So we were big fans of Triple D, the Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, and so when we were in San Diego, we went to Blue Water Seafood Market and Grill.
It is Chef's Kiss.
And like it's right next to it, there's like a Mexican restaurant right next to it that was also featured on the show, and they make handmade tortillas every day. So the Blue Market gets their tortillas from the Mexican restaurant next door, and then they do just seafood stuff.
Oh my goodness.
This was where I finally convinced Derek to try calamari. I had been trying for years, and Derek was like, no, gross. But they, instead of having them in rings, they cut them so that they were like more in strips, and he thought they were clams. So we got up there to order, and he's like, oh, I want the fried clams. We're like, we don't have that. Do you mean the calamari? I was like, yes, we do. Thank you. Put that down. And so Derek like begrudgingly tried it, and he was like, oh, look who was right.
So the running joke between Lizzie and I is that Lizzie has a very diverse palate, more diverse than myself. And so she has gotten me over time, begrudgingly, like she mentioned, to try new foods.
Kicking and screaming.
And but it's been awesome. As I've grown and we've been together, she has gotten me to eat way more food than I would have tried previously. And I'm hugely grateful for it because I have had some awesome food that I never would have tried. Like pad thai,
like fish
curry,
tacos,
fish tacos,
tamales,
calamari, tamales, like
cannolis.
Just like cannolis. There you go.
Lumpia.
So like it's kind of like this running joke where like
goodness.
we'll go to a new restaurant and I'll be like, all right, you order for me, because if I order, it's going to be chicken tenders, a hamburger, or fettuccine alfredo.
The first time I have to tell this story. The first time we went to a Southern place, he ordered chicken and waffles. He ate them separately. He didn't understand that you're like supposed to eat them together. He like took them off and ate the chicken, and then he ate the waffle. And I was like, what are you doing? They're served together for a reason. He's like, well, it's a chicken and a waffle.
It's true. It's all of it. It's true. It was so funny. So funny. But anyways, I would love, I'd love to have those conversations. Like if we just have like a 10-minute segment where we just talk about something fun, right? Just whether it's food or a book or, movies. I know Batman just came out. Jimmy, you went and saw Batman, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going to hopefully see it soon. There's just a lot of really fun things I think we can expand into.
We got some Star Wars coming out in a couple months.
Obi-Wan trailer just dropped.
Kenobi.
I'm
trying not to talk too much about it. Yes.
My goodness.
We'll have to wait till it's actually out and some people have
live
seen it.
Action Inquisitors. Like,
Derek, I know the second you heard Duel of Fates, just like me, goosebumps. I was like, Okay, that's all I'm going to say.
Okay, we are going to cut this off. Otherwise, we will be talking about random stuff all night.
It's true.
We will have to fit it into the next segment.
We will
put a special segment for just special interests.
Special interest. We'll come up with a nice alliterative title as well. That way,
sounds good.
It's got something fun. But thanks again for your Dice Tower overview. It looked like a great time. And one of the things that I love about conventions, especially, is I go with like a list. I don't know if you do this, but I go with like a list of games I want to play or learn because I know. Listen.
Yeah.
But like so. I can go and I'd be like, you know what? These are the games I'd like to play because I haven't learned them. Do any of my friends know how to play them? And then I can check them off, come back home, teach it to Lizzie. Boom, bada bing. Don't have to worry about reading a rule book or watching a how to play video. Although I love watching Rodney, I will never say no to watching Rodney. So, but that's kind of one of the things I love about conventions, as well as meeting friends and hanging out.
Agreed.
Gamma, Ruel, gonna be a Gamma?
No, I'm still recovering from Dice
You're
Art
recovering.
West,
Yeah, that's what I figured. I'm going to Game Up for the first time, so I'm excited. It'll be interesting.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah, so it'll be a good time.
Next time we'll talk about it.
Next time we will talk about it. All right. Thank you so much for listening. We hope that you've had a great time. And as always, we would love to field any comments or questions you have. So make sure you follow us on all the social medias, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, at BG Spotlight. And Ruel and Stephanie and Jimmy, please let everybody know where they can also follow you.
Yeah, friends, you can follow me, Ruel, at ruelgaviola.com, and you can find me on the socials at Ruel Gaviola. That's RUELGAVIOLA.
So Jimmy Hudson, I'm over at the Board Game Closet, so you can check us out on YouTube and on Facebook under Board Game Closet.
And I'm Stephanie, and you can find me on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter under Minimum Player Count. On Twitter, it's actually Minimum Player CT. It was too long, the full name, so that's where you can find me.
I love it. All right, thanks everybody, and we will catch you next time. Happy gaming.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
And that's it for this week's podcast. Thanks again to our amazing sponsors and our wonderful Patreon supporters. We'll see you next time on the Board Game Spotlight Podcast.